A millionaire attending a luxury dinner is stunned to discover his lost love, whom he believed dead for 12 years, working as a waitress at the event. The sight of her triggers a whirlwind of emotions, ranging from disbelief to longing. Overwhelmed by the unexpected reunion, he confronts her, seeking answers to her mysterious disappearance. She, in turn, is equally shocked but hesitant to reveal the secrets of her past. The encounter sets the stage for an emotional journey of reconciliation, forgiveness, and rediscovery. Their story unfolds against a backdrop of wealth, loss, and enduring love, leaving everyone around captivated. Hi everyone, welcome to True Emotional Whisper. Today, I'm excited to share a new story with you. On a chilly December evening in 2024, 45-year-old billionaire entrepreneur Michael Carter sat in the lavish dining room of New York's prestigious Aurora Luxe restaurant. As he glanced over the menu, a waitress approached his table and he froze. Standing before him, alive and breathing, was Sarah Evans, the woman he had buried 12 years ago after her mysterious death in 2012. Michael's mind raced back to their last moments together. In the early 2000s, he and Sarah had been inseparable. She was a bright, aspiring journalist, and he was an ambitious young tech developer. Their love had been the kind people write songs about, passionate, fierce, and endless. But in September 2012, their world shattered. Sarah had gone missing while investigating a high-profile corruption case involving a pharmaceutical giant, and weeks later, her burned car was discovered at the bottom of a ravine in upstate New York. Authorities ruled it an accident, but Michael never believed it. The body they recovered was unrecognizable, but DNA evidence matched Sarah's. Heartbroken and unable to cope with her death, he poured himself into his work, becoming one of the wealthiest men in the country. Now, after 12 years of mourning, here she was, serving wine to strangers, with a different name tag that read Emily. Michael struggled to compose himself as Sarah. "No, Emily," calmly asked for his order. Her expression gave no hint of recognition. Could it really be her? Was this some kind of cruel joke? Or had she truly survived, only to vanish into a new life? Unable to resist, Michael followed her discreetly after she walked away. The faint scar on her left wrist, a scar he had kissed countless times, confirmed his worst fears and wildest hopes. This was Sarah. She was alive, but why was she here? And why hadn't she reached out to him? As Michael's heart pounded, memories of Sarah's last investigation came flooding back. He remembered the cryptic warnings she'd shared: "If anything happens to me, don't trust anyone," and the way her sources had vanished one by one before her disappearance. Could Sarah have faked her death to escape a threat? And if so, was she still in danger? Michael's thoughts were interrupted by a shadowy figure watching him from across the room. He felt the prickle of unease. Someone else had noticed his reaction to Sarah. As he stood to leave, he realized his quiet reunion might not go unnoticed, and he couldn't shake the feeling that the people who wanted Sarah dead might still be watching. The restaurant lights dimmed momentarily, and when they flickered back, Emily, was gone. Panicked, Michael rushed to the back, only to find the kitchen staff denying her existence. The waitress, they claimed, had never worked there. Yet, on his table, Michael found a folded napkin with a note scrawled in familiar handwriting. "Meet me at our spot. Midnight. Don't trust anyone." Michael's chest tightened. Their spot, a hidden bench overlooking the Hudson River, was a place only the two of them knew. If Sarah was truly alive, she was reaching out. But why now? And who else was involved? As the clock ticked closer to midnight, Michael prepared to uncover the truth, but the shadows of Sarah's past and the danger that once consumed her seemed closer than ever. Michael arrived at the bench by the Hudson River just before midnight, shrouded in the biting cold and a fog so thick it felt like the city itself was holding its breath. The place hadn't changed in over a decade. An old wooden bench hidden by overgrown trees, a place they had once called their sanctuary. But tonight, the bench wasn't empty. Sitting there, wrapped in a threadbare coat, was Sarah, or Emily, or whoever she had become. Her face was drawn and tired, but her eyes, those unmistakable blue eyes that had haunted his dreams for 12 years, were the same. "Michael," she whispered, her voice trembling as if she couldn't believe he was real. "Sarah," he choked, his knees threatening to give way. How is this possible? I buried you. I grieved for you. I know," she interrupted, tears welling up. "And I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you, but I had no choice." "No choice?" Michael's voice cracked with anger and heartbreak. "You let me think you were dead. You let me suffer. You let me live without you." Sarah flinched as though his words were daggers, but she didn't look away. "I had to," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "If I didn't, they would have killed you too." She looked around nervously, her fingers trembling as she clutched the edges of her coat. "The same people who burned that car and planted my DNA. The same people who wanted me dead. They would have come for you if they knew I survived." His mind reeled as he tried to process her words. "So, you staged your death? You left me behind to protect me?" Tears streamed down her cheeks as she nodded. "I didn't have a choice, Michael. They were watching me, watching us. That story I was working on. It wasn't just about corruption. It was about murder. They killed witnesses, whistleblowers, anyone who got too close. When I found out what they were doing, they came after me. Faking my death was the only way to escape. But why now? Why come back after all this time?" Her face crumpled, and she buried her head in her hands. "Because they found me again. I don't know how, but they have. I saw one of them at the restaurant tonight. I think they've been watching me for weeks." Michael felt his stomach drop. The shadowy figure from the restaurant. The unease that had gnawed at him ever since he saw her. "Then why the hell didn't you tell me sooner? We could have faced this together." "You don't understand," she cried, her voice breaking. "These people, they don't stop. They don't leave loose ends. If they know I've contacted you, you'll be their next target." Michael stepped closer, gripping her shoulders. "I don't care. If they come for me, so be it. But I'm not losing you again, Sarah. I can't." For a moment, they just stood there, the weight of 12 years of pain and longing crushing them both. Finally, Sarah broke the silence. "I need your help, Michael," she said, her voice barely audible. "There's proof of what they've done. It's the only way to stop them. But if we go after it, they'll come after us." "Then let them," Michael said fiercely. "I have resources, connections. I'll protect you, Sarah. We'll expose them together." She looked up at him, her eyes searching his face. "It's dangerous, Michael. You could lose everything. Your money, your life. Are you sure you're willing to risk that for me?" He didn't hesitate. "For you? Always." Before she could respond, a sharp rustling in the bushes behind them made both of them freeze. Michael turned, his heart racing, but saw nothing. Then, from the shadows, came a low, menacing voice. "You shouldn't have come here." A red dot of a laser sight appeared on Michael's chest, and Sarah screamed. Michael's heart raced as the laser sight hovered on his chest. He instinctively pulled Sarah behind him, shielding her with his body. His voice trembled as he called out into the shadows. "Who's there? Show yourself." A man stepped forward, dressed in black and holding a silenced pistol. His face was cold, emotionless, the kind of face Michael had seen in his nightmares since Sarah's death. "You've made a mistake coming back, Ms. Evans," the man said, his voice calm and icy. "We don't leave loose ends, and tonight, this ends for good." Sarah's grip tightened on Michael's arm. "Please, Michael, don't do anything reckless," she whispered, her voice cracking with fear. Michael, however, refused to stand idle. He locked eyes with the man. "If you touch her, I swear I'll..." The man smirked. "You'll what? You're just a rich fool who stumbled into something far bigger than yourself." But Michael wasn't a helpless billionaire. He had spent years building his empire, learning to navigate danger and deception. His mind worked quickly, scanning the area for anything he could use. "Run, Sarah," he hissed, shoving her toward the bushes. "Now." "No," she cried, refusing to leave him. The man raised his weapon, aiming directly at Michael. But before he could pull the trigger, Michael lunged forward, grabbing a rock from the ground and throwing it with all his strength. It struck the man's hand, causing him to drop the gun. "Go, Sarah," Michael shouted again. This time, she obeyed, disappearing into the darkness. Michael turned back to the man, who was now pulling a knife from his belt. The two collided, grappling in a desperate struggle. The man slashed wildly, and Michael felt a sharp sting on his arm. He ignored the pain, focusing only on survival. With a burst of adrenaline, he managed to wrestle the knife away and knock the man unconscious with the handle. Breathing heavily, Michael grabbed the gun and sprinted into the woods, following the faint sound of Sarah's footsteps. "Sarah," he called, his voice hoarse. "I'm here," she answered, her voice trembling. He found her crouched behind a tree, tears streaming down her face. Michael pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. "It's okay. You're safe now." But they both knew that wasn't true. "We have to leave," Sarah said, her voice urgent. "There's more of them. They'll come after us." Michael nodded. "We'll find somewhere safe. But first, tell me, where's the proof you mentioned?" Sarah hesitated, her eyes filled with guilt. "It's in a storage unit in Albany. Everything, the names, the documents, the recordings, it's all there. But they know about it. That's why they found me." Michael's mind raced. "Then we'll get it before they do. We'll expose them, Sarah. I promise." As they ran toward Michael's car, parked several blocks away, they heard distant voices and the sound of engines roaring to life. Their pursuers weren't far behind. The two of them reached the car just as headlights appeared at the end of the street. Michael shoved Sarah into the passenger seat and jumped behind the wheel. "Hold on," he said, slamming the gas pedal. The car sped through the quiet streets of Manhattan, weaving through traffic as black SUVs closed in on them. Sarah clung to the door, her face pale with fear. "They won't stop," she said, her voice breaking. "Neither will I," Michael replied, determination burning in his eyes. As the chase continued, Sarah glanced at him, her heart aching with both love and guilt. "Michael," she said softly, "if something happens to me, just know I've always loved you." "Don't say that," he snapped. "Nothing's going to happen to you. Not while I'm here." But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. The storage unit in Albany held the key to bringing these people to justice, but getting there alive would be the hardest battle of their lives. And as they sped into the night, their future remained uncertain, their love burning brighter than ever amidst the darkness closing in.